Hello, my name is John Senda. I'm an osteopath and yoga teacher. First of all, I want to let you know that in October, I am giving an intensive course on yoga, organs, and emotions. We will do it on October 4th in Barcelona and on October 12th in Lleida. And in addition, we are offering online training starting in October. Today, we're going to make a different kind of video since summer is ending and I would like to share a reflection. Why do we practice yoga? What is the difference between a yoga practice and a sport? The big difference is that yoga is the union of the body with the mind and the spirit. That is the main difference. Why, when we practice yoga, do we experience pleasant sensations? Inside the brain, we have glands, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the pineal, that are responsible for secreting different compounds to help us feel better. The hypothalamus is responsible for managing all the information with the nervous system and the glandular system. The pituitary is in charge of carrying out the commands that come from the hypothalamus. And the pineal is a gland that secretes compounds such as melatonin. Therefore, when we do a yogic practice, basically what we are doing is activating the glandular system. We have the adrenal glands, which are linked to stress. The adrenal glands secrete adrenaline and corticosteroids. When we do a yogic practice that involves the glands, afterwards we experience a pleasant sensation due to the activation of this hypothalamic system, this hypothalamic axis. Well, so what's the difference with sports? Would they do the same thing? Pretty much the same. But in yoga, the big difference is that we have techniques like meditation. Meditation inherently generates deep introspection, a profound turning inward, actively seeking focused mental clarity. When we use this technique of mental focus, the mind is aligned, it's straight. It sends concise information. In this way, what we're doing is controlling the mind, that corrupt mind. If we don't have a technique to master that mind, the mind will drift from side to side, generating a lot of dissatisfaction, causing a lack of emotional control. Additionally, in yoga, we are stretching the muscle chains, both the anterior and posterior muscle chains. When we stretch the muscle chains, we release dopamine. Dopamine is a hormone that is linked to happiness. When we stretch the posterior muscle chain, the posterior chain, we also achieve good structural alignment. When we balance the anterior and posterior muscle chains, it benefits proper body alignment. And proper body alignment creates much calmer emotional states than when we have forward or backward postures. Apart from the posterior muscle chains, we also have influences on the joints. Over the years, the joints start to deviate, they wear down, and so the practice of yoga, proper alignment, the brain understands it has a memory of past alignment, and when we return to that point of alignment, the brain gives you a pleasant sensation. This is the moment, this is the point. We don't just work on the muscle chains and we don't just work on the joints either. But one of the most important things is the organs. The organs are linked to emotions, and that's where we have a problem. The liver, which is on the right side, is connected to anger, rage, and fury. Lateral postures tend to compress and decompress the organs. Therefore, when the organs are flexible, when they are spongy, we have control over our emotions. That's why yoga has specific techniques for compression and decompression of specific organs. For example, if we bend to the right side, we compress the liver and the gallbladder, and if we bend to the left side, we compress the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, and the left kidney. Twists allow us to compress all the organs. The interesting thing about yogic practice is knowing what we're doing, not just practicing for the sake of it. But rather, if I want to work on a specific organ, I know what kind of postures I'm going to do. In yoga, there are basically 6 types of postures. Forward bends, back bends, side bends to one side or the other, twists, balancing postures, which are fantastic for both brain hemispheres, and we have inversions, which drain the brain and activate the intracranial glands. Yoga is not just about stretching postures. We also have strength postures. Strength generates an activation of the nervous system, a strong nervous system to fight against emotions. And we also have an activation of the lymphatic blood circulation. Because if we don't move the blood, the toxins we've expelled from the organs can't be eliminated from the body. We see that there is a connection. If you practice yoga at home, you need to think about what you want to do. That way, it will be much more effective. Your practice, especially on an organic level, well, we've already talked about the glands, inverted postures, all the intracranial glands. Lateral postures, for example, we will work on the adrenal glands, left and right. What else do we have in yoga? Apart from organic control, muscle chains, joints, heart, lymph, glands. We have the more subtle energetic aspect. Here we really have a big difference compared to other types of activities. Remember that yoga is a technique. Energy, which we are connected to all day long, the energy of the sun, the energy of the moon, of the planets, all of that affects our body. And yoga allows for the specific and voluntary control of that energy. The energy that comes into our body and passes through it is called prana. Prana can be controlled at will. This prana travels through the body via energy channels called nadis. If you know what the nadis are, you can control that energy. Basically, we have three: Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Ida, feminine. Pingala, masculine. Sushumna is the central energy that balances the entire energetic system. You may or may not believe in energy, but you're probably aware that sometimes you sense that energy, like when someone stands behind you and you notice it. You perceive that someone is behind you, or you sense fear. That energy exists. In yoga, we simply channel that pranic energy to flow through our body. For what purpose? So that it reaches the higher chakras, which are electromagnetic vortices, allowing us to harness that incredibly powerful pranic energy and expand it outward. When you have control over that internal energy and expand it outward, we extend that energy to the auric fields. The auric fields are energetic fields outside our body. Our intentional projection of that energy into the auric fields is truly the essence of yoga control. Therefore, we see the difference. Even if you don't have technical or yogic knowledge, thank you. You realize that when you practice yoga, you feel better. When you practice yoga, you find that you are more subtle, more energetic. You notice that you have better control over your emotions. That is yoga. That is the big difference. That's why it's important to know what we're doing in yoga so we can set a goal and move towards it. Is it a slow practice? Yes. Does it require a lot of time? Yes. Obviously, this is not something quick. It's not like taking a pill and that's it. Yoga practice requires a lot of discipline, a lot of routine over many years. And it is through that routine practice over the years that little by little the mind begins to open. And we have techniques like meditation. Meditation is the yogic technique for controlling the mind. Chitta, which are the mental waves, that corrupted mind, doesn't let us live, doesn't let us sleep. That's why meditations are a fantastic tool for controlling the mind. When we have control over the mind, you achieve mental calm, and that mental calm is priceless. It is a gift, a jewel that this technique gives us. Let's not confuse this with religions. It's about mental calm, control of the mind, and when we have mental calm, we can be subtle with other types of energies. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.